Hello and welcome to the Under Centre podcast. I am, of course, your host, Darren Marr, and I'm delighted to be joined by both Malloy brothers today. Fionn, I got your lovely face on Tuesday, and now I'm delighted to be joined by Reen. How are you, boys?
Doing well. Always a pleasure to share the screen with my brother and, of course, with you, Dara. I did notice the sneaky Seahawks logo just popped up there. I hope that's not going to be a running theme of this show. We won't be having any of that trash on.
Well, look, as boss of this show, I think I can put on any sort of logo I want. Aidan's giving me a few bob as well. There might be a Steelers logo somewhere along in that too. So don't worry about that. Reen, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing excellently. Glad to be back. It seems like I'm only getting every second show or every third show these days, but yeah, I'm looking to be more involved from now on. And by the way, I must say that new intro is perfect. Chef's kiss, Dara. Chef's kiss. Yeah, really nice.
Thank you. I can do some stuff when I have a bit of time now. I have a bit of time that the kid season's over, so that's all right. Although we have to deal with flag now, Fionn, which should be fun because it's our first games on Saturday. First games on Saturday. Here we go.
Careful out, Dara. We haven't even introduced him yet, and I saw Aidan do a little twitch there when you mentioned flag. So be careful with the trigger words today.
I know. I was enjoying the green room music.
It wasn't bad, yeah. Some nice like elevator style music there, just while you're waiting, just while I'm frantically trying to get some social media posts up there. I just want to get you in a calm mood there while I'm keeping you on hold before I start hitting you with the hard hitting questions. That's all it is. That is, of course, joined us this week of all weeks, the few days before the Shamrock Bowl. Aidan, we're delighted to have you on. How are you, buddy?
Oh, listen, fantastic. I'm always happy and loving life. So listen, come here. Why not? I promised I would do this for you, and so listen, I always keep my promises. And it's always good to hear from the members and hear from the people that are helping promote AFI as a whole. So it's a credit to you as well, and on behalf of myself and the board, listen, we thank you and thank your listeners for supporting us as we go along. I was just wondering, are you having somebody mentioned it to me at the Mavericks game last weekend? There's no live phone-ins. No, it's just all text messages, is it?
I haven't been quite able to work out the phone-in aspect of it, and I wasn't comfortable about putting Fionn's phone number out there for everybody to call him during the show either. So I decided maybe leave the phone in out of it.
I think as well we don't have one of those expensive like beep machines for if lads start going nuts on the cursing, so we can't afford the editing on that side. I think we'll just stick to the text where we can kind of stick our thumb over some of the words.
Yeah, I think that budget's gone to another podcast.
Well, look, listen. I guess I have to say it off the bat. You boys backed the wrong horse at the start of the year with the podcast. I have to just say that now. He's backed the wrong one. You know, there is a podcast who's still here, still has the original core, and you know, just saying, just for when you're making your decisions for next season and who to ride with, you know, just saying there is one there that has all its original members still there.
Oh, I know. Hey, come here, listen. It's whoever comes and asks for help and assistance and wants to be part of this journey. Listen, the door is always open. Is always open for people that want to help AFI grow. So
yeah. Oh, of course. I believe you have a bit of work for us there on Sunday now as well. So we're looking forward maybe to helping out what we can on Sunday for sure, whatever that may be. But look, listen, there's plenty to talk about, not just about how like we are the best podcast going. And I know, hold on. There we go. Sorry, Chris. We still like you, but you know, we have to say the facts, right?
Every man for himself, Chris.
Yeah.
That's a nice one and a half, that one.
I wasn't even going to attempt it. Chris has got that down. He's got that down now. He can speak about that, or he can say that easily. I'm not even going to try. Ah, well, look, listen. Yeah, ask him then on Sunday there after a few points. He probably might actually say it better. You never know. But look, we have plenty to talk about tonight. First of all, Shamrock Bowl. Let's have a quick chat about that. Preparations going well for it. Looking forward to Sunday, heading down to Cork.
Yeah. It's different this year for me, simply because the last Shamrock Bowls have always been Dublin or Belfast, and like that's only an hour away from me, so I'm able to go down and I'm able to do a lot of the organising, a lot of the graft work that goes into it. But we're excited about MTU Stadium in Cork. It's a fantastic arena. It's a fantastic place. And thankfully, I have great support down there with Alan Lamazni, who is on. Not only is he the head coach of the Admirals, but he's also on the AFI board with myself. And then the Admirals are doing fantastic work with helping us from that standpoint with a lot of the little jobs that need to be done to get this game going and get the profile of it up, and making sure that it is running, it's streamed perfectly as well, and it's there's all the little jobs, all the stuff behind the scenes. So yeah, it's going well. It's looking forward to it, and going down Saturday and going to stay for a few days with the family down there, and we're going to go on Sunday and enjoy the day. And if it's half as good as last year's game, I think everybody's in for a treat. So, and I was at their game in Palmerstown there last month, 6 weeks ago, and that was a fantastic game. That came down to the last 2 minutes as well. So we're in for a treat this Sunday.
Really quickly, while we're talking about venues, I think it's great. I think everyone loves to see that the sport being moved around and the finals being moved around. It's obvious what it's going to do for teams outside of Dublin and drawing that attention. I don't know how far in advance you guys plan. I know there's a lot of budget stuff that goes into whether these venues are available or not. Could you see there being venues that are held outside of footballing strongholds, places like Athlone and things like that? Are these things the AFI considers, or do you like to keep it where the teams are based? Dublin, Belfast, Cork, Limerick, these kind of areas.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Athlone. There's a Dewberry Park in Athlone used to be the home venue for the Irish under-20s and Irish women's team. That idea was broached last year for the Shamrock Bowl last year. So yeah, there is scope to go outside. What we need to realise as well is we need to look at population based and where the biggest populations are for travelling wise, and then it does also help when there is a local team, because you have that local team support, and particularly if that local team could get to the Shamrock Bowl. Now, if Cork had been in the Shamrock Bowl this year, perhaps we may have seen a bigger increase, or potentially a bigger increase with supporters. But no, it is something like I've been going to AFI AGMs since 2015, and I think it's come up every year. The question of having the Shamrock Bowl outside of Dublin. Last year we were up in Belfast. This year we're in Cork, and to be honest with you, until prices start coming down, it's not going to be feasible to have it in Dublin for a good while, because Tallaght Stadium, where it's been a number of times, is a UEFA stadium. It can't host us. There's other stadiums that have priced themselves out of the market. But from speaking to a few people lately, there is potentially a place or a venue in North Dublin. Sorry, I'm just in an office, the light's going off. But there is a potential of having somewhere in North Dublin, not Morton Stadium, but a different venue, which will broach for next season. But the doors are already open for us to return to Kingspan Stadium next year. So we're excited for that opportunity as well. It was being reseeded this year. So yeah, that's the reason why it probably wasn't in Kingspan. But yeah, listen, there's always the opportunity to go there. So Waterford's another fantastic venue. I don't know if everybody's got the chance to go down and play the Waterford Wolves, who play at the fantastic stadium and pitch that they have at Waterford FC. But I think that's another phenomenal stadium. Locker rooms, it's like the ground's like a carpet. It's class looking. So yeah, there is scope for us to go around, and it will be, if it's financially feasible. Yeah, if it's to make people happy and have it in Dublin to make people happy, then if it's not financially feasible, it ain't going to happen. I'm not out to please people and to break the bank just to appease a few people that just don't want to leave the smoke. You know, if they go outside the M50, they're in the wilderness, that kind of way.
I feel like you're talking directly to us there on that one.
Yeah. Careful now, Aidan.
Yeah.
Careful now. We're all
Yeah.
based in Dublin. At least the lads on this
No,
part of the show are anyway.
it's not that. No, I'll be honest with you. I have had conversations and I've had conversations with people from clubs outside of Dublin, particularly last year about why it was in Belfast, and not as much this year for why it was in Cork. But it is what it is. We are going to go to where it's financially feasible for us, that has a good, strong base of supporters already, i.e., with a local club. But yeah, it is what it is. But it's mainly, to be honest with you, it comes down to the money. Because ultimately, you charge me with looking after, making sure that we don't blow a budget or we don't waste money needlessly on having big venues and stuff like that, or expensive venues. Like, I think it's out there already how much the venue in 2019 was in Donnybrook. So it's not feasible for them.
Yeah. Speaking of money and the Shamrock Bowl, I guess this would be a good point to ask our first listener question, and it's the €200 fine being informed for the Shamrock Bowl for non volunteers. Seems a bit unfair for Northern teams.
It does, and right, we'll go back to this because this was broached to me. This was brought to the board as well. So yeah, right. I've been to Shamrock Bowls in Dublin many a time, and I have hosted and been part of organising it, and it was a struggle to get volunteers from clubs to help out with that. And that was brought into the bylaws long before I was part of the board. But then ultimately, what has happened last year, we had it in Belfast, and 2 teams from the north sent volunteers. Okay, and how many teams are up the north? So this year is in Cork. Now there is workings there for us to deal work with teams with when it comes to volunteering and stuff like that. But yeah, it is what it is. We need volunteers to run these events. Now, chances are we could have an event up the north, but I don't buy the argument that it doesn't suit us because of the distance we have to travel. When I asked for volunteers last year and the venue was on your doorstep and you still didn't send volunteers. Now, granted, we had to hire in the Ulster Rugby or the Kingspan Stadium event, stewarding the crowd that they get into steward events and stuff like that. So that was an extra cost that we had to incur on top of that. If we had got enough volunteers, we wouldn't have had to do that. But listen, there is workings around, and I think a lot of the majority of Northern clubs have reached out to me, and we've discussed this going forward. But it is there. It is a bylaw that we have that we can afford, and there is a few like that. But while there's 6-7 clubs up the north, that including Flag and Kidded, there's 20 clubs, say south of the Mavericks, say in Loud, that could potentially send volunteers. I'm also noticed that clubs can send people to the VIP area in Cork, but they can't send volunteers to Cork. So that all plays into it as well. And that's me just having a little rant, but hey, it is what it is.
So Aidan, I guess ultimately then the goal of AFI is to get to be able to host these events totally internally, not have this extra cost of hiring these stewards. That's the goal, is to be able to have enough volunteers to be able to do the tickets and the parking and everything else that needs to be done. Was that fair to say? That's the ultimate aim of these kind of policies.
Oh, exactly. If we for talk for last, I can't speak for this week because we're still getting clubs are still sending me in their volunteers and apologising for not sending them in at the weekend and stuff. But yeah, if I use for an example, last year if we had got enough volunteers, we would have had enough to do the gates, we would have enough to do the stands, we would have enough to do the key positions around Kingspan Stadium. We might have only had to hire maybe 1 or 2 staff members that know the running and how everything works. But because we didn't get enough volunteers, we had to go to Kingspan Stadium, go through there, get them to help steward the event, and I think that came to something. I think it was £13, £14 an hour, and it could have been 20 or 30 of them. So it all adds up. It all adds up. But hopefully we will get to a point where we can be self-sufficient with this. But it is.
Have you an idea of what your ideal numbers would be, just so that the clubs might know and be incentivized to send guys down? Do you know, is it 20, 30, 40 volunteers you guys are
I'm guided by the experience and the learnings of clubs. Like Cork Admirals have hosted events the last couple of weeks, 2 events in the last month at that venue, and I've spoken to Connor, the chairperson of the Admirals, and he's told me what has worked for them. So I'm guided on that. I would reckon a dozen to 15 volunteers would be more than enough. I'd have to check the numbers. I think we're in around about 10 to 12 volunteers at the moment, and so a few more, and then we have enough to do the gate, we've enough to do the stand, and we've enough just to monitor the event and make it easier, because it's nicer. I would like to have it that people can rotate, so they're not stood in the one location for 5 hours on end or 4 hours on end, and to rotate and go and get a cup of coffee, that kind of way, and rotate the ticket stand where people will be coming in and stuff like that. Many hands make light work. Plus you come, you get fed, you get watered, and it's you get to see a fantastic game for free.
Is that the thing, that they will be able to see the game as well? They won't be left looking after the toilet on the other side of the stand. They won't be able to see anything.
Nobody has annoyed me yet, so no, that position's not
Farrah, only you need help wiping your arse. All the rest of us can do it ourselves. Thanks very much.
Yeah, well, look, listen, Fionn, we all can't be like little skinny lads. Some of the big guys up front, they struggle to get their arms around at this stage.
Skinny arms, hard to get around that arse of yours, is it?
Yeah. Well, look, listen. Big arse,
big
calves,
there under
big
center.
problems.
Get Reen in there under center with his hands.
Bring the gooch pressure, yeah.
What's that thing we said? The sphincter. The sphincter catch. Yeah, get Reen in there using the sphincter catch.
There we go. Reen, I'll give you the next listener question there. You go ahead for that.
Yeah, we're going to move on a bit from the Shamrock Bowl, and Conan Yall, the head coach of the Giants, asked, when will the details for the upcoming youth season be announced?
Right, the youth season is AFI have an interim director of youth football. It just so happens that interim director is Ty Henry, so he's a wee bit preoccupied at the moment. But the youth season has been the same for the last couple of years. It's going to start in September. It's going to break for a week for the Hope Through football camp, and then it's going to kick back in then start of October, because the Hope Through football hopefully will be the last weekend of September, and then it'll kick back in for October with the final, either the second last weekend or the last weekend of October. Now, I know Ty has been working closely with Alan Ramazny and Paul O'Donnell with this, but it's still the same procedure. The clubs need to get right in the back room. Nothing has changed from last year to this year when it comes to your child safeguarding, your Garda vetting, ensuring you have enough coaches to run a good camp and enough coaches to look after the youths that you will have. I am pleased, or I am encouraged to see that where we had 4 teams last year, we have upwards of potentially 7 or 8 this year wanting to go and wanting to get at it. So it's still the same, and I know that the extra clubs coming in this year are getting their ducks in a row from an off the field standpoint and are able to start training. But listen, we'll give the interim director some time to get over this weekend and get a rest, and then go at it. But like, if anybody has any questions, like if Conan has any questions or any other club has any questions, feel free to shoot in the emails to myself or to Alan or Paul, and we'll send them out, or we'll be able to deal with them like that. It shouldn't take me being on a podcast like this to be asked that question. It's simple enough. We're always open to answering questions.
All right. Since we are talking about the Giants, we had a question here. What sanction will the Giants face further antics ahead of the D2 semi?
I've spoken to the Giants. Well, I haven't spoken. I've emailed them, to be honest with you. And myself and the commissioner has liaised with Ross and from the Pirates, and there was an understanding from the Pirates of how they wanted AFI to handle it, and we've passed that on to the Giants, and the bowl game has happened. Them players did not participate in the bowl game. What happens outside of that when it comes to sanctions, that it will more than likely be up to BAFA and IAFA for when it comes to ITC rules and stuff like that. For as of playing an ineligible player in a game, listen, AFI have dealt with that based on the recommendations or how the Pirates wanted us to deal with it. So
you mentioned there we're kind of moving along a little bit because we've a lot of questions to get through, and by far one of the biggest questions we've got across the board seems to be, as you know, there's only 2 teams left with any football yet, so all the rest of the teams in the league are now immediately thinking about next season. I don't know if you've had a chance to do that yet or not, but the majority of the questions we get asked is, obviously we've lost the Trinity from Division 2, and so does the AFI, is the league, do they have any concept yet about what the structure might look like next season? Is it a topic that still needs to be discussed? Is there a timeline for when that might be discussed? And maybe if you have any information you can give to the teams about how they can give you suggestions or have their input, or indeed even if you are going to be looking for their input at all into this decision.
Yeah, no, listen, I spoke to the commissioner about this. My days and weeks are all blended in together. I think we spoke to her about this close to the end of the, what day are we on? We're on the 10th. So I spoke to her about 3-4 weeks ago, maybe. It was coming to the end of the season, just before the playoffs happened. And we discussed how we were going to look towards next year and how we wanted to go. I have had proposals submitted to me from a number of teams about how they would like to see the league structured. Both proposals I received, or myself and the commissioner received, has an amalgamation of D1 and D2. So we will look at that. AFI haven't closed the door on Trinity coming back. I think there's a lot of discussions there that have to be had between AFI and Trinity, and maybe the sporting department at Trinity College as well, to see how we can get the team back up and running, get the right support structures in place, and get a good full season of games in. I'm not going to discuss the inner workings of Trinity and how they operate, and I am aware of how Trinity work with their sporting departments, but I'm not going to disclose that kind of work. That would be unethical of me to discuss where Trinity work and Trinity College work with their sporting teams. But that can happen. For an amalgamations, I think the 2 proposals, one was having like a northern-based division and a southern-based division, and the other ones I've seen as more of a seeding-based one. We have first, third, fifth, seventh, and go odds versus evens. But to be honest, I have seen these proposals. I've looked at them, I've closed them, and I haven't gone back to them because there's more things at the present that I need to be concentrating my time on. But I spoke to Erin and I spoke to members of the board there, and I think I spoke to a few people most recently at the D2 board game, that it is the commissioner's view, and I would agree with her, that we will organise a workshop forum from, say, in early September, where we would put this out to clubs for clubs to come in and come up with ideas and make recommendations of what they feel would work, because I certainly don't have all the answers. I tried to do something last year with the Premier Division to help the lower clubs, and after thinking about it, my decision or my recommendation at that time was wrong, but it was agreed at that time that the Premier Division clubs would discuss it after the season about what may be of benefit for, say, new clubs that get promoted into the Premier Division and how they can be more competitive, and then the clubs at the bottom could be more competitive. So like that can kick into the Division 1, Division 2, and have a group-wide think tank or a workshop forum where clubs can agree what best works for the leagues, and then bring it to the board or bring it to the commissioner for discussion. The only thing with that I would ask is that clubs would have to come to it, or members from clubs would have to come to it with an open view of what's best for the league and for clubs, and not look at it as if, right, well, we're in this seed and we're going to have to play this team and this team and this team, and we don't want to play this team twice, we want to play that team once, that kind of way. They have to look at it as what will benefit the league and not how it affects their club next year. And I think that would be my only ask coming out of it. But I'm excited for this and for the feedback. So yeah, that'll be September when we start looking at next year. And with that, so yeah, I can't give a definite date of when that would happen, whether it be an in-person clinic, whether it be an online clinic at the weekend or midweek. But yeah, no, that's the plan going forward, and get the feedback in from clubs. And if it needs to be voted on at the AGM in November for a bylaw change or a restructure, that we'll do that. But we'll definitely get it done, so that we're not January and we're still figuring out what way it happens. There'll still be a lot of stuff that needs sorted out in January, but not the league setup.
Quick follow-up, Aidan, is there any Under Centre podcast exclusive? Have you got any new teams that have reached out to you with an interest of joining? I think that would certainly play a part in whether Division 2 stays around or not.
Not in tackle football, no. In flag football, I do know the director is still getting queries about people wanting to set up flag football teams. As I mentioned, there's another number of clubs setting up youth programs, but no, not tackle football. Not tackle football, I think. But I do think there's areas there that are untapped. So it's been obvious. It's predominantly, it's backwards to you, but it's predominantly the northeast to the south. Like there's only one team in the middle of the country. There's massive scope there for extra growth and for new clubs to set up. So maybe that's something that can come out of this as well, and clubs might be able to have ideas of how to do this, of how best we can get new clubs into it, because it's hard for a board to go out and say push an initiative in a location if there's nobody there to grab the reins and drive it in the local community, you know.
Absolutely. So one of the main talking points throughout this season has been the amount of blowouts that have happened throughout each of the three divisions. You kind of touched on it a little bit in terms of getting a think tank going between teams to see how a structure of the league happens. But is that something that the league has looked at? And is it something that concerns the league, that we've seen this big kind of gulf between kind of a top end team and a bottom end team within each of the three divisions?
Well, to be honest, I haven't looked at it. I haven't had time to look at it. I don't know if the commissioner has looked at it or any member of my board has looked at it about from a blowout standpoint. For that, I wouldn't have an answer. Why there's so many blowouts? I'd have to be guided by the feedback we could get from coaches, head coaches, of why, number one, the head coaches and the clubs that are on the positive end of the blowout, why they were able to do that, and then the other side of why, from the head coach and clubs, of why they lost by so much. So that would be feedback we'd have to get from clubs. I don't think, and it was said to me before, I don't think, and I don't accept the excuse that it's because it's a condensed season. I will not, and maybe that's just me being stubborn in a way, but I won't accept that it's a condensed season, and because we're finishing 3 weeks earlier than normal. I don't know, won't accept that, but I will be guided on the feedback from coaches and clubs, and if they come back and say it's a condensed season, then maybe, yeah. But at this moment in time, I'm not going to listen to people that just want to give out to say that it's because of the condensed season, it's because of the European Flag Football Championships, which has nothing got to do with it whatsoever, because that was after the Shamrock Bowl anyway. So yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, look, listen. If my memory serves me right, there was a good few blowouts last year too across the division. So there is something. It's something that's been there, maybe not just this year, but
Yeah.
I can't say for certain 100% it is because of the condensed season. I'm just,
Oh, yeah.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah. No, listen, I had a conversation with all Premier Division teams last year about how we can support newly promoted clubs up to that division, and I had a stat done up for the teams that the newly promoted team has not beaten any team that was in the playoff for the previous season, and they have the margin of the loss has been big, has been 30 plus points, and that's for a newly promoted team, and it's the same again this year. And I credit to the Minotaurs that have gone up and they've fought hard, and they've had a successful season, that they've retained a position in the top division, and they've won a couple of games. But there is stuff there, yeah, that we can possibly do to helping clubs become more competitive. Now, I would suggest, and I have done this year, and I'm going off tangent. Apologies. But there was a club came to me during the year. I'm not going to mention the club's name. They hadn't won a game yet, and I was talking to the coach, be friendly enough with them, and they mentioned an issue with a particular. They mentioned the offensive line to me, and that was a problem why they weren't scoring or getting any traction in offense. And I put them on to share the knowledge. That's the crowd that comes with the Hope True Football, and that is a wealth of knowledge and experience that clubs can tap into and garner experience from coaches that are like AFI has loads of fantastic coaches in Ireland that have been doing it for 20 plus years. The UK has it as well, and as part of this Share the Knowledge program with Coach Rick and the Hope True Football Foundation, you can get information and knowledge from coaches that want to part their knowledge and wisdom onto AFI coaches. And I would implore and ask all clubs and coaches to invest time into seeing how that can work for their club. And I do know this year that Coach Murray from the London Olympians went to the Admirals for pre-season training as well, and they've had a fantastic season as well. So listen, there's systems and there's people out there that want to help, and if that closes the gap on blowouts next year because clubs have gone out and sought this help and assistance that's out there for them, then listen, we're on the right track.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask a listener question, but from beforehand, but we got a YouTube question here. Actually, I want to ask first. League communication for events, etc. this season has been a bit lackluster. What would Aidan like to see from the comms team next season to improve?
Right, more volunteers. Simple as that. It's more volunteers. We have a comms team that do Trojan work, but they also have jobs. They also have 40 hours a week, and then the expectation is to come down and start doing AFI stuff in the evening times. It is a volunteer-led association. I'm not expecting people to come in and volunteer 10, 15 hours a week to do this. It's volunteer. I do know that there's a lot of quality people out there that can create posts, can create graphics, and do it on their platforms. And if we had them within our communications team, it lightens the load on the people that look after the website. It lightens the load on the people that do the graphics for the social medias. It lightens the load for the people that actually post the stuff on social media. It's a small team trying to do all the work, and extra help. Many hands make light work, so it's as simple as that. What would I like to see my comm team next year to do better? I think they're doing fantastic work. But like every position within AFI management, extra help would be greatly appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're trying to hire me there now, Aidan, you can just talk to me after the show. We'll sort out. I know you said volunteer. We'll sort out maybe a wage pack. We'll do like a sponsorship deal that's underwritten, like RTE do or something like that. We'll get it sorted.
Like a band, what's the word? Like a barter account.
Yeah, we'll get the barter account going. It'll be grand. Don't worry about it.
You know what? We'll you can do it, and I'll make sure the Mavs send you down a kebab pizza every week.
You know what? Last Saturday I tried it for the first time, and yeah, it lives up to the hype. It's unreal.
You do chicken kebab one as well, which that would be my preference. Of the two.
Chicken kebab one would be nice now. Now, listen, half of it ends up on the floor, but it's still delicious. There's too much on it,
I know.
But
I know, but at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you just start using your fingers to get it all up and shove it in. Like
you just plant your face straight in. That's it. There's no lifting anything up.
Yeah.
You gotta go the 2 slices there, fold it over, then it's not going anywhere.
Rian, you haven't seen this thing. You can't get 2 slices and fold it over. It's not going to work.
Right, okay, it's that big.
It's still going everywhere. It's still going everywhere. Right. Probably the one section that in all the times we've talked leading up to this, the one that you'd get most questions about, that's of course officials. Right. First one of the questions here is, do refs' performance get reviewed, and is there an outcome to a poor display? This one is SBC, especially from this listener.
Yeah. Do you know what? There is, I don't know, for the director of officiating, yes, he does review full-time officials, and they do have a sit down and they discuss how they get on. But yeah, no, myself and Steve Modes, the director of officiating, have had many conversations. Predominantly, they're on Sunday nights, Monday mornings, Tuesday mornings, and we've had a good few conversations about officiating. I've had, and Steve knows, I've had phone calls during matches about officiating. I have been to games and seen officiating, and I've had emails about officiating, and myself and Steve have had a good conversation about where we need to go in the future. Then we're only going to talk about tackle football officiating, because flag football officiating is only in its infancy. But yeah, we have a good plan of where we want to go for next year, where we want to grow. I don't know if any of you know the term continuous professional development, CPD. It's CPD training. And one of the things I have told the director is that we are going to have to look at a CPD structure for officials, full-time officials, TPOs officials, and keeping in taps and keeping up to date with your CPD officiating. And if you're not up to date, you won't officiate. Simple as that. And that's what I have talked to Steve about. Similar with TPOs. TPOs keep up to date with CPD training. If they're not up to date, they're not officiating, and then that will fall back on the clubs to ensure that their TPOs are up to date on the officiating. So that's one of the things that I've discussed with Steve. The other thing I've discussed with Steve, and it was a bylaw that we had years ago, where you had to have a minimum, I think it was 1 year, 2 years, I think it was 2 years playing experience before you could become a TPO. And that was taken off by, I think it was the board, or could have been an AGM, to help clubs boost their TPO numbers, because they were struggling to get TPOs. I think at this stage, and from speaking to clubs and from hearing what clubs saying about the standard of TPOs and who clubs are putting forward for their TPOs, I think, me personally, I am going to put a proposal in to change that. I think it should go back to something the way it was, because then you had somebody that has played the game for a year or two and then become a TPO, as opposed to a rookie that's come down and has gone straight into it when they may not know the rules of it. So that is some of the work that we're doing. I know Steve Sager, the development officer in the officiating department, is very excited about it as well. I coincidentally, through organising the flag football championships in August, the IFAF representative that I was dealing with, he's also one of the heads in the BAFAF officiating department. So there's a lot we can learn. There's a lot we can learn from that when it comes to how we can progress. But yeah, listen, I don't think Steve would mind me saying this. And I've seen problems with officiating this year. I've seen very, very good officiating, and then I've seen some bad calls. And I think that I think there's a lot of learnings, and I've spoken to clubs nearly. Yeah, I've spoken to clubs about officiating, and I've assured them that this is something that AFI management is going to take very, very seriously. But it has to happen after the season, when we sit there and we look at it and we put a system in place, we put a plan in place on how we can do this, and we can look at our peers in other nations that are in a similar setup as us, of what they work, and that goes from everything from consistency to play calling to having the right people in the right places. And also, one of the things I spoke to Steve, and it all comes down to finances, but I think clubs would understand having enough officials on the day, because if you have 4 officials, say 3 TPOs and 1 full-time official, you have 4 sets of eyes trying to look at 22 people, or say 11 different battles. So more officials on the day means more eyes on the day, and they can pick up the calls that teams are getting so angry about and have told me about. And all I can do is reassure that we are going to do a lot in the off season. Some of it could be very drastic, but I think the first aid plaster scenario comes into play. You whip it off, you have a wee bit of pain, but the overall growth is needed. But yeah, listen, come here. I think as much as TPOs need to continue their professional development when it comes to training, I think full-time officials need to do it as well, and a good few training sessions or retraining sessions on positions and what to look for, and more up to date with the rules and stuff like that. Yeah, and listen, I don't mind saying that. I do know that, and I have seen. I spoke to an official that didn't know a particular rule, and I think it was one of the, it was actually your game where they shouted across the NSS. That should have been a flag. Do you know?
Yeah, shouted straight at me. Straight at me.
So listen, it is, and listen, I think I apologise to you straight away after it. Do you know? But yeah,
that Aidan, that wasn't the only issue in that game. The fact that it was called early as well, without us giving us a chance to actually level the game up, I think was the bigger problem.
Yeah. No, listen, you can take it from me that I have told many teams, and I'm a person in my word, that this is something that we are going to look at heavily in the off season. We will invest into it in the off season, and it's something that we as a board and as management are going to look at to ensure that the issues that have arisen this year do not happen, and that goes for all officiating. And then on a side note, and that also goes into the line of discipline afterwards, and discipline structure that we would have afterwards to deal with stuff after that. Because at the moment, right, and I'll be forced to admit it, that our discipline and how we deal with incidents or citations or reviewing stuff that happens at games can vastly improve. And there has been a proposal made to the board about a disciplinary committee that can look at, it's more of an oversight committee that can look at an incident happen at a game and get it reviewed within a couple of days and make a recommendation to the commissioner, as opposed to the commissioner going out and looking for all the information and then waiting for it all to come back in and then dealing with it. I think that streamlines it. but with that sounds great on paper, but we also have to ensure that it complies with the law basically, and due process and fair procedures, and we have to rewrite our constitution slightly so we can have this kind of a committee that can look after all of this stuff and get stuff dealt with quickly. And yeah, so there's a lot of stuff like that in the off season that has to happen, because we can't change, or we don't change competitive rules mid-season, because it's an unfair advantage to teams that haven't experienced that. But yeah, there's a lot of off the field work that you have to do in the off season. And
then very quickly, sorry, I was just going to say very quickly to wrap up the section about referees. We got a YouTube question here first of all. What about TPO mileage? And then on top of that, from ourselves, what about moving away from the in cash obviously payment for TPOs and officials and moving to something more like a Revolut to make things easier?
Yeah, it's funny TPO mileage is mentioned, because I had with our AFI board meeting on Monday evening, and that was something that I mentioned to the Chief Finance Officer Alan Brown about TPO mileage and the expenses. And I spoke to Steve Modes about it. Today's Thursday. I spoke to Steve Modes about it on Tuesday, and them two people are liaising with each other to get it out. I don't know the ins and outs of how it's done. It can be greatly streamlined, and I do know from last year it was moving away from the cash side of things and clubs paying their TPO expenses in advance. There's teething problems to it, but like that, we're still relying on the assistance of volunteers to do this, to make the payments, to authorize the payments, and to transfer them out. And you have to look at it that if it was done at the end of every game day, and you have 6 games in a day, and you have to send out the PPO money, you have to send out the full-time money, you're near enough into a payroll scheme if you were to do it that way. And that time that can take well, the way it's explained to me is that can take a couple of hours every Monday or every Tuesday, and you're relying then on your finance team to be able to do that and authorize the payments. But yeah, it can be streamlined, and it is getting that way slowly but surely. But yeah, we have to get away, and we have been getting away from cash. But definitely, it can be better streamlined, and I'm encouraged to know that is going to be dealt with. But TPO mileage, the people in charge of that were told to talk, and that was on Tuesday, and they are dealing with it.
All right, so we have another YouTube question here, Rain. I'll let you read that one out.
Okay, so the question is, has there been any decision made on the Wolves statement to use youth balls during the flag games? Will they be allowed to continue, and will other teams be allowed to follow suit? Now, that might be the North Down Dragons.
Yeah, throw that back, because I was reading. Can you throw that back up? Because I was reading. Are you able to throw it back up? Because the word Wolves got me, and I'm like, what do you think of the Wolves?
I don't think it was the Wolves, though. I think it might have been this was during the town hall meeting on Monday.
On the Wolves statement to use youth balls during the flag games, will it be allowed to continue?
Sorry, it's the Lions. Yeah. It's the Belfast City Lions, not the Wolves.
Right. This is to do with the request during the week to ask would youth footballs be used for in mixed leagues, in mixed games? Yeah, I think that's
for female quarterbacks.
Yeah. There has been a decision made, and I need to speak to the director of flag football about it. I became aware of this, that clubs were being asked, and I've taken it out of the decision of the clubs, and I've made a proposal, or I made a recommendation to the board, and Kelly Dwyer, who is on the board with me, who is also a member of the Irish Wolfhounds. She sat down and she drafted up a proposal for the AFI board to vote on, and that vote was passed. Now, the exact wording of it, I have to send on to the director, but yeah, he's going to know this evening. So yeah, youth footballs will be able to be used in mixed games, in women's games, in exhibition games when there is a female quarterback. So I listen. I have to look at the wording again because to know the exact wording of it. But yeah, youth footballs are going to be able to use because look at it this way: why would we prohibit or why would we impede women from becoming developing key skills in the most important area of the pitch? It's IFAF regulations, or it may be used, but a lot of divisions use women to smaller footballs. You look at other sports, GAA, when you kick smaller balls, the rugby's the same. Soccer, there's equipment is different because across different sports when it comes to gender stuff. So it makes sense. I can't understand why there would be any feedback or any pushback on it, because it's development. It's developing female quarterbacks in what can be described as a male-dominated sport, and the more female quarterbacks we have coming through gets us to closer to being able to have a women's league. So.
Yeah, and Aidan, as you said, to reiterate, I think it's worth pointing out that in the likes of the European Championships and mixed stuff, it is commonplace for the female and mixed to use youth ball. So it wouldn't be exclusive to the Irish League, and I think it's worth pointing that out because it just keeps us in line.
No, it's a common sense approach, and we want to grow and develop our women in or grow and develop the women within our sport. So yeah, it is.
All right. Right. So I know we are running short on time. So there's there's nearly at 8:30 there. Yeah,
no,
nearly at 8:30.
We'll keep going until I get a text message or look in the window.
Grant. Okay, so the next one we have here from listeners, I guess we can add these two in together because first of all, there was a statement they released just before we came on there regarding the Rebels and Panthers incident. I'd like to get your views on that, obviously, because it came from yourself, and then also a listener has asked what has been done about the incidents from the Vipers and Razorbacks game as well.
All right. And has your listener asked the Vipers or the Razorbacks what has happened or anything like that? So
that's just a question I have is what was done.
Right. The incident that happened in Dublin, that was a spectator issue that was dealt with by the officials on the day by way of the bylaws with when it comes to dealing with sideline issues or spectator issues. Thankfully, it didn't gravitate to where it was a stoppage. I think there's 4 versions of stoppages within our bylaws: 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think 3 and 4 is to do with outside of lighting and all that kind of stuff. It's issues that could have been prevented that are affecting the game. So AFI reached out to the Rebels about it, or after I found out that incident. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I spoke to the Rebels, I spoke to AFI Redesigned, and I spoke to a number of Rebels. But AFI then requested an internal review in the Rebels as to some of the stuff that was said. We got that. I've not going to question the integrity of the person that did that internal review. I think his integrity should be unquestioned. I am happy with the internal review that was done within the Rebels. I'm aware of the incident that happened at the end. That situation, there was 2 sides to that story, and for us to come in as a third party and decide which side is right, we couldn't do that, because to do that you would have to say one person is wrong and the other person is right. So it was it was dealt with as far as we could bring it. We're not going to listen to hearsay evidence or the court of public opinion of what had happened. We have to go with what we've been told. But that incident and with other incidents that have happened has alerted us or brought our attention to a wider issue when it comes to behaviour or the amount of fouls or penalties for shit, really, being a harsh word, that has happened. So it's a wider issue that we need to look at. But that particular incident drew some do you know what it is? It annoyed me in a way because from what I've seen online or from what was sent to me online was people keeping an argument going for the sake of having an argument. There was people that created accounts to target AFI Redesigned. There was people that created accounts to target the rebels just to keep an argument going. When just grow up, get a life, that kind of way. Let us deal with it. I know it affected AFI Redesign. I know it affected the rebels, and there was a lot of unnecessary chatter from people that shouldn't be really chatting about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, but listen, that's it. You're going to have that in all walks of life. Once it's online. It's online. People have a sense of security online, hence fake accounts and all that kind of crap. But yeah, that was it. So that was dealt with, and that went out to the clubs. I spoke to the clubs and I spoke to everybody involved in that incident the other week and explained to them. I was the one that conducted the review and made the recommendations to the commissioner because the commissioner was away on work duties. So they accepted it, and it's they may not have been happy, but they ultimately accepted it, and it's the way it is with that. Now that we have to go with what we're able to do. We have very minimal investigation techniques, but we have to go to what we can do within our bylaws and what is right. We can't go and hearsay evidence or anything like that. So that incident has been dealt with. In relation to the other one, the other one being the Vipers and the Razorbacks. Again, I conducted that review after that incident happened. Funny enough, that was one of the times I got rang during a game about incidents that were happening at the game me at work. But at that time and that evening, we spoke to the commissioner, spoke to the Steve Moles, the director of officiating, and footage was requested. I think there's three bits of footage we could have got, one each from each team, and then one from a third party. So that information was got. I did see the footage pretty soon after it. But like that, there was a lot of things happening in that game. So yeah, there was a comment made, but the identity of the person that made that comment could not be identified. So we can't assume or presume or lay blame on anybody that we're not 100% certain. But should information come to light that somebody have said that, then we'll be able to deal with it further. So that dealt with that issue of that particular comment. When it came to the incident of the alleged helmet swinging and that particular play, again, the court of public opinion and the hearsay and all that definitely happened, right? In my job, I have to, if I'm in court in my job, I have to get into the box and I have to be 110% certain that what I am saying is 100% certain of the truth. And I ask anybody to go back and watch that footage and categorically tell me that they saw that person swing his helmet or hit your man with the helmet. There's no footage out there that you can 100% certain say that happened. So we have to go with the facts, not with what people want the facts to be. But like that, listen, there was other things that happened in that, and I spoke to that player, and the commissioner spoke to that player, and that incident was brought to a conclusion that was satisfactory to both teams and the players involved. So, but this thing, and I'm not going to say it. This thing is of people saying things that something happened because they wanted to happen, or like to talk about or type about it or do that kind of stuff. We have to act or operate in the with the facts and exactly what we can see, and it is what it is. Regardless of what footage you look at, you cannot see that man's swing his helmet. You cannot see him hit your man with the helmet. Yeah, he took the helmet off angrily, but then it's you can't see anything more after that. And yeah, what has happened after that particular incident, I spoke to that person, and it's done, it's dealt with, and yeah, it's up to them to tell you if they were punished or not. I'm not going to get into that.
Okay.
Were they the answers you're expecting, or do you want a different answer, or do you want me to elaborate, or what?
Well, to be fair, I had no expectation. I wonder if it's the listeners' answers if that was the answer the listeners wanted. I'm not too sure, but I'm sure we will.
I think Aidan, if you don't mind, I actually didn't know in advance that that you had conducted the investigations, and obviously in your work outside of AFI, I think we can say that you definitely have experience of doing that. So I think the AFI can certainly stand over how their investigation went, and I think as maybe impartial people, I think we can say that, look, as you say, it has to be absolutely provable, not just hearsay, and that can be very frustrating on both sides of the argument, specifically when you're the aggrieved party. And so the AFI, as you said, it's a voluntary organization. You can only do so much, and you can only prove so much, and you need to have the facts in front of you, and therefore when you conduct your investigation, that's all you can make your conclusions on, and that's the only way the AFI can deal with these situations.
Yeah, no, listen, it is what it is when it comes to stuff like that. We're not saying people are wrong in what they're saying, but we just can't prove it to 100%. We have to be able to do that, because we have to keep a level of integrity, impartiality, transparency, and keep making sure that we operate the same way throughout, and to make sure that if we keep to the same standard, then you're not going to go wrong that kind of way. It's when you start doing things slightly differently just to give an outcome to somebody that they would prefer, then you're going down the wrong way. Then you're fucked, basically. You have to keep a standard and keep your integrity. And if it annoys people, right, it's part of it. But ultimately, it's for the best of the association, and hopefully that person or these people or whatever happens, that they understand why the outcome has been that way.
Okay. We have one YouTube question and one other question that we'll go through, and then we'll call it a day. This one is on the Euro Flag Championships, of course, that are on next month. We were talking off air, and you're getting right into the thick of it there at the moment. But I guess the listener here is asking: is there any, or will we see a more ramped up sort of, social media presence of the European Championships now, leading up to it? And what else did they say? Yeah, just saying, like, have you been happy with how the build up has gone so far?
Yeah, like that. It's AFI are the host nation, and it's important people to realise that we are the host nation. So it's reliant on volunteers again to do a lot of the work. And again, it's the AFI communication team that's doing a lot of the work, and a lad called Liam from the UCD, who's done chosen work from a website standpoint. But when it comes to communications and the PR aspect and getting it out online or getting it out, that falls under the remit of the federation that the competition belongs to. So that falls under IFA. and IFAF have a certain way of promoting it, and their communication strategy and how they want their games to be advertised. So a lot of that has been not delayed, but a lot of it has been reliant on IFAF to give the green light on a lot of things. I know they were concentrating on, there was a lot of European women's football games happening. Then there was the America's Flag Championships happening last week in Charlotte, and now it's our turn to shine, and IFAF will start pumping the gas on the online presence and allowing us to do a lot more stuff from an online presence. You have to understand with this is that from a communications, from an online standpoint, there's a lot of stakeholders involved outside of AFI. The main goal of this is to get flag football into the Olympics in LA 28. Now, with that is you probably see the increased exposure and push the NFL have on us on flag football, and that coincides with IFAF's initiative as well and vision for flag football. IFAF and the NFL are powered together promoting flag football at a worldwide level, and then you have the International Olympic Committee as well, who are monitoring how we do things, how we portray, how we communicate, and how we host or portray ourselves in conversations like this, in calls like this, but also our online presence. So there's a lot of thought and planning has to go into a marketing campaign. It can't be like we just create a post and we'll bang it up. Now I do some stuff through my online Twitter thing, but from an official standpoint, it has to be thought out. But yeah, no, there's going to be a massive ramp up. I have a call with IFAF tomorrow to sign off on a few little things from a communication standpoint, and then it'll be all systems go, and we'll have a website and socials, and hopefully all nations will have sent me their roster so we can get them up as well. But it's an absolute behemoth. It's turned into an absolute behemoth of an event, and yeah, I'm going grayer by the day, but there's just for men for that.
Sure. Look, listen, it'll all be worth it in the end. I'm sure when it's all said and done, I'm sure you'll be sitting back and be happy with how it's gone. Last question comes in.
Do you have many questions? Do you have many questions left? You said it's the last question. There's many questions.
This is the last one. Last one. This will be the last one. Then we'll let you go. Because
nice softball.
When are the Steelers come? Yeah, when are the Steelers coming to Ireland, and when are we going for points after?
Planning on linking up in that whole scenario. Is there any plans in the works?
You know, I actually had a Zoom call with the Steelers today at 3:00. I had a Zoom call with Mr. Dan Rooney and his right hand man Regan. It was a constructive. It was a good meeting. It was quick, as you can imagine. They're extremely busy people, but it was more of an introductory meeting, feeling out. They asked me some questions about AFI and how we are funded, how our operations are, how we work as a management team, and they asked me about our strategic plan and our vision to get there before 2026. It was the first phone call of many. I have another one with them next week. They have given me some insight about when they're coming to Ireland this year, but they've also asked me not to share that. So, but you can take from that there will be something by the end of the year during the season, but I can't give specifics of what that is or when it is. But it coincides with a few AFI events, so yeah, it could be a phenomenal weekend of football. So yeah, it could be good. But yeah, no, they have a plan. They have a plan to invest a lot of resources and a lot of time into the growth of their marketplace in Ireland, which coincides with the community and grassroots development. They have systems that work in Mexico, and they want to see will them systems come into Ireland as easily or as fluidly as it. But yeah, no, they're going to be working with ourselves and a lot of companies or a lot of organisations to help make the transition into the island of Ireland. They're going to make it streamlined, as streamlined as possible. But yeah, no, there's going to be more regular calls with myself and either the Steelers or representatives of the Steelers as we go forward. There's lots of different avenues to go, and the other thing as well is there's a lot of hype as well from the NFL UK coming into Ireland as well, and what they can do to help grow the sport, and when it comes with camps and other kind of initiatives and stuff like they have. We've called it this day a week with the NFL UK team. So it's exciting stuff.
We'll save that Steelers info for when we go off here. Don't worry, we'll get it out of you there. We'll get it out of you. Listen, Aidan, we really appreciate the time. Such a busy week, and obviously in the middle of your work week.
You know what? I'm actually delighted that the membership or people that weren't as afraid to ask questions of me today as they might have been. I think it did in April with the other podcast.
Yeah. So, well, look, listen, and that's what we're delighted with as well. That some of the questions, because you obviously you can hear it throughout like various group chats and stuff like that, complaints about this and that. So it's good to be able to have someone to talk it to and hear from an official league source. And
I hear about I do hear about the complaints that are in certain chat groups, and you know what? If I started worrying about every single complaint that's in a chat group, listen, I'd never get anything done. I'd never be able to invest as much time into AFI as I do.
Yeah, and look, I know what you're saying. We're done with YouTube comments, but this one just came in, and we should put it up here because it's how we feel about this too.
Are they going to ask for the link for the AFI raffle? No.
Not quite. They were actually singing your praises a little bit there, but if you want to talk about the AFI raffle instead of giving you the virtual pat on the back, we can do that too. But look, listen, like he says here, Andre says don't think people in the league understand how hard Aidan's job is. Really have to say a big thank you for the time and effort you're putting in. Can't even imagine the amount of stress it creates. And look, we echo that statement here on the show as well.
You know what? I'm up for re-election at this AGM. So if anybody wants to take the role on for me.
I'm not putting my hand up for it, but I'll see if Reen wants to. Reen, stay perfectly still, or don't stay in the chat if you want to, Joe. Right?
I did mention the AFI raffle there. It is, and I do see other clubs have other raffles, but other clubs have the same kind of raffle, but the name of the game wrong. I must reach out to them and tell them the name of the game wrong. But the AFI raffle is there to support the Wolfhounds men and women's team, cover the costs for them to go to the European Flag Football Championships, and the prize is unreal. I think the prize is coming in about £1,500 with the tickets, the accommodation, the cash, and I don't know if any of you have ever had the chance to go to Fire Restaurant. It's an unreal place. It's delicious. It's delicious.
I've had,
and then there's other great prizes as well. So every ticket bought is supporting the team, and it may be pricey, but listen, it's the price. The prices are far outweigh the cost of it. You know, so yeah.
Well, look, listen, that's it, and we'll post links on our own socials, and you can go to the official American Football Ireland socials too to get links for that for the raffle if you want to be in with a chance to win some of the great prizes that are on offer, which, like Aidan says, includes a 2-night stay in Blanchardstown, wasn't it? That's where it is.
No, that's the second prize.
That's the second prize. Sorry,
that's
second prize.
No, it's the Clayton. I was told the name. The one down beside the Bogosh Energy Theatre. It's that hotel. So you get 2 tickets on two sideline tickets. You get 2 nights in that Clayton Hotel down by the Bogosh Energy Theatre. I don't know the name of it. It's gone out of my head. You get £200 cash, and you get Sunday lunch in Fire Restaurant. So it's a weekend, and it's fantastic. And listen, I'll try and do my best to get the sum up machine to crash again. So.
Perfect. Listen, like we said, we won't leave you much longer. We really appreciate the time, and looking forward, and I'm sure we'll have another chat on Sunday at the game.
We will. Listen, folks, take care.
Excellent.
My numbers are out there. If you ever need anything, you can always text or ring me or email me or stuff like that. I think members at this stage know that I'm always open to speaking to members, and I'm not a closed book or go through the channels type of a person.
Yeah, perfect. So that is where we're going to wrap up this edition of the show. Fionn, Rian, as always, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you to everyone that has tuned into the live show, sent us questions earlier on in the week. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel here and you did like the video. We will have the podcast version up on the podcast channel so you can listen to it if you on the go, on repeat, if you missed any of it.
People won't be able to freaking understand my accent on the podcast, so you're going to have to get translation.
We can use AI. We can use AI to clean it up, Aidan. Don't worry.
Oh, brilliant.
But like I said, that is all the time we have on this edition of the show. We'll be back next week, looking back at the Shamrock Ball and looking back at the year overall. But until next time, guys, stay safe, and we will see you soon.
Take care.